The only remaining question for the Ducks after their 23-0 win over Texas Tech: how ready are they for the Indiana Hoosiers wagon?
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much, especially my everydayers, for making that the case. All Texas Tech fallout, Indiana look ahead on today's show with my guy, Jake Butt of the Big Ten Network. This episode brought to you by our friends over at, not FanDuel, not today. They give you the lines for all the games you need. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Jake, let's dive right into it. You were there in Miami, watched a physical knockdown, drag-out game. I thought the under of 51.5 was going to hit. I didn't think it was going to hit like that. What impressed you most about the Ducks win?
Yeah, first off, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to the Ducks fans. It's been a while since we've done one of these podcasts.
Indeed.
And, I mean, gosh, man, college football semis, 2 to go. Man, everything impressed me. And, you know, we are in a beneficial position, meaning at the Big Ten Network, where we get to talk to the coaches, the players. We even get to talk to some of the coaches and players from Texas Tech. And I think the first thing that stood out was just like the energy. There was a noticeable energetic difference between Oregon and Texas Tech. Like Oregon, I think the getting punched in the mouth by Ohio State last year benefited them. I think the fact that they got a home playoff game and jumped on JMU benefited them. I even think the way that the defense played in the second half benefited them because it was an organic way for Dan Lanning to apply pressure to everybody. Just right away, I was, texting with some of our crew at other venues. I'm like, man, are you guys noticing anything? Because it just felt like Oregon was going to dominate these guys. And that's exactly what they did. That was one of the best defensive performances I can remember seeing. I mean, just from the jump, Texas Tech had quite literally no chance. I even think offensively, like we were trying to, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. We were trying to, did Dante Moore play a good game or a bad game? Was the offense good or bad? You know, I think to answer that question, we do have to give a ton of credit to Texas Tech's defense. That is an outstanding defense. That is an outstanding defensive line. Rodriguez is an excellent football player. And I think like you have to, when you're answering that question, you have to factor this all in. I think the good thing for Oregon, it wasn't their best game offensively. Fixable errors. Poncho, that was, I don't know. I mean, has that ever been an issue in his career? I was shocked.
No, I think Oregon fans were having flashbacks to the game that we don't mention here on the show. It was actually about 10 years ago in December, and we don't bring that one up. But I heard this point get made and had this thought myself as well, and I do think there's something to those 2 bad snaps he had that derailed drives. I mean, when you're going against a defense like that, you can't get behind the sticks consistently and still pick up first downs. You can't be in third and long. Like the first drive for Oregon, they had a couple of third down and mediums, third down and longs that they converted. The first third down of the game, I think, was 7 or 8 yards. And Dante Moore makes a great throw to Jamari Johnson. And that's good and fine. But in that first quarter, you could feel, boy, you cannot live in this spot. This is not going to be sustainable. You're not playing Oklahoma State. You're not playing Montana State, Oregon State, anybody like that where you get behind, okay, just run the ball for 8 yards, get to third and manageable. No, you have to stay on schedule is what coaches call it. And Oregon didn't do that enough in this game. And
yeah,
I think that's the snap issue was at least a little bit of function of Poncho going against a defensive line that he just hasn't seen this year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks have pointed out the first play of the game, he got discarded like a rag doll. And that was a bizarre thing to watch when they showed the replay because it was like, who's doing that to one of the best centers in college football? And I think at that point, maybe it got in his head a little bit. That's me speculating. I haven't talked to him. I don't know if he would say that publicly, but that's what it looked like to me. I think the advantage of that, though, Indiana has a great defense, and we're going to talk about the Hoosiers a little bit later on the show. Indiana's defensive line is not as good as Texas Tech's.
Yeah, it's a different battle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like the Texas Tech, those guys were freaky. Like that was a very freaky athletic. I mean,
how high can David Bailey jump?
I mean, yeah, and he's out there with no gloves on. I mean,
No.
He's just a football player. Poncho didn't play his best game, man. I mean, besides from the snaps, we were texting that fourth down early in the game where they went to a wildcat. He just completely abandoned Pregnon. He just didn't play his best game. And, that 2-minute drive going into half, that's where I'm like, Dante Moore was dicing up Tech. Like, that was a beautiful drive that was coming together. And then as soon as you have that bad snap, the drive's over. So I really think like that maybe this can be the JMU moment for Oregon, meaning like the Oregon's defense in the second half of JMU led to an outstanding defensive performance against Texas Tech. Maybe some of the missed opportunities in the trenches against Texas Tech will lead to Oregon playing their best game, which will be needed against Indiana.
It definitely will. And I think Oregon fans are certainly going to accept that particular interpretation of things because it did feel a little fluky, and this isn't an Oregon offense even in big games, including against Indiana, by the way. It's not a team that has struggled playing on schedule or staying ahead of the chains. You look at the fourth downs or poor plays they had in the first game against Indiana, it didn't look anything like this Texas Tech game. And Indiana has a good defensive line, but it's their linebacking core. They've got a great corner in D'Angelo Pons, who's an All-American, and they've got unbelievable scheme. And, one thing that I talked about on my show going into that game is Texas Tech is not a team that blitzes a lot. Why? Because they don't have to. They don't have to. Indiana doesn't have 3 NFL guys on the defensive line. Texas Tech does. They have good players on the defensive line. They have well-coached players at every single position group. I'm convinced their third-string kicker could nail a 50-yard field goal. They're so well-coached. But it's a different type of challenge, as you mentioned. And I think that the overall adversity that the offense overcome, that the team had to go through, feeling like they were outplaying Tech. They outgained them 214-88 in the first half. They led 6-0. Okay, yeah. That can mess with your head a little bit. And for Oregon to have come back and won that game in rather comfortable fashion, I think is a good thing. But now you shift to Indiana and say, well, we got prepared by going through a knockdown, drag out sort of fight and proving to ourselves that we belong here and getting over the hurdle of moving past where we made it in the last season. But now you have to go against an Indiana team that is just as well coached and schemed, Jake, as any college football team I can ever remember watching.
Yeah, they're just the best coached football team across the board, and that's been the case all season. And the mastery of Cignetti, we all joke about it on social media, like, why isn't this dude smiling? They're dominating Alabama in the fourth quarter. And there was an article that came out by, I believe, Bruce Feldman of like Cignetti. He's Saban 2.0. There is a standard that he does not waver from literally ever. There's never a scenario where he's going to accept anything less than the best of his players. And that is what has allowed them to translate and play like the best coach team. I think off of that, and to go back to Texas Tech, Dan Lanning is aggressive. He's been aggressive all year. There's a psychological aspect of, I thought early in that Penn State game, going forward on 4th and short in your own territory, and it worked. Penn State Oregon obviously won that game. This was teetering on the line of recklessness, though. It almost went from, and probably did go from, aggressive to truly reckless in the game against Texas Tech. And look at Alabama, for example. They went for it early on 4th and short against Indiana, did not get it, and that then becomes deflating. I'm just curious because on one end, you say, hey, this is Indiana. Maybe we punt it on 4th and short. But on the other end, what are you then telling your team if you decide to all of a sudden punt it? You're telling them, hey, I don't trust you to win this game. So this is a psychological battle here too. By Dan going for it as much as he did against Texas Tech, he's saying, 1, I trust you, offense, that you're going to get it. And if you don't, defense, I trust you that you're going to have their back. So that I do think like that's going to be a huge storyline in the Oregon Indiana game, because it's going to be a battle. It's going to come down to like razor thin margins, and those like fourth and short, third and short conversions are going to really play a big factor.
Yeah, and they certainly did in the Texas Tech game. I mean, Oregon stopped Texas Tech 3 times on fourth down, and they were 4 of 8 themselves. I want to follow up on that point in the Oregon offense writ large. A lot more to get to with Jake Butt of the Big Ten Network. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Maybe something would have trended in the Blazers' direction before they beat the Spurs as an 8.5-point underdog. Beat them outright. How about that? If you'd wanted to have some action on that, nice voice crack there, then FanDuel is the place to do it. If you think Oregon's beating Indiana, you probably think Oregon +4 last time that I had checked. Might be down to 3.5. You know what? I'll double check in real time. That's the way we roll here at the Locked On Network. Live action, live reads. It is indeed Oregon +4.5 against Indiana. If you think Oregon's winning the game, you want to go to FanDuel to check them out and get in on the action. And every Friday before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So, Jake, the fourth downs, 4 of 8, it is definitely a lot. I only really disagreed with one, but it wasn't one specific decision to go for it on fourth down. I think Oregon was one kick short of having played it perfectly. Either the Wildcat 4th and 1, which we can question the play call all we want. It worked. That formation worked really well for him against JMU. I don't think they quite got set correctly is what it looked like. And then Poncho and Prainon just didn't pass off or communicate who was supposed to block Lee Hunter, who came in almost untouched, and you can't do that for an all Big 12 defensive tackle. So either that one, the 4th and 2 with the sprint out, I could not stand that play call. There was nothing about that I 8-man rolling protection with a 2-man route. Nothing about that.
2-man route with 4 zone defenders, and you're booting towards David Bailey.
You're basically banking on it being cover 0. You're banking on it being cover 0. Anything other than that, and you're probably in a bad spot. And by the way, why would Texas Tech feel the need to bring cover 0 when they've been getting pressure with 4? So nothing about that.
Coming off a timeout there too.
Yeah, they were coming. Yeah, they were coming off a timeout.
You need to have 2 plays called in the huddle there. You should be able to check out of it when you get that look.
Yeah, and maybe that's on Dante Moore as well for not checking out of it. But I didn't care for that at all. Either those two, or frankly, the 4th and 2 where Dante Moore throws a pick. With how the defense was playing, I would have been okay with a punt, even though they were over midfield, because of the way you'd struggled up front in the entire game. You had no opportunity to try to run the ball for on 4th and 2. They knew that, so they were sitting on the pass, and they ran zone against mesh. And your defense had been playing so well. There's no way Texas Tech's going to put together a 90-yard touchdown drive. At best, they're going to get a field goal, and it's still a 2-possession game. And you're at the point where killing some clock is not the worst thing. So I don't think one is more egregious of a decision or was than the other. I just think between the 3 of them, one of them should have been a kick. Because if you kick one of those 2 where you're in field goal range and Sappington converts, it's a 2-possession lead at the half, and the game feels totally different. And if you punt it there, and I think I objected to that one the least, because you were up 13-0, you just gotten a stop yourselves, and you were going for the kill shot. Yeah. So I agree that it bordered on it. I didn't have a major objection. I just think there should have been maybe one more time where he kicked. And I think Lanning said that at a halftime interview. So, I probably got to take the points. Yeah. I probably got to take the points. And against Indiana, with how the last game went, you definitely got to take the points.
Yeah, I mean, right. Like this is the complexity of this, and this is why these coaches get paid the big bucks. Is you have to, structure. It's never just about one individual moment or one individual play. You have to factor it into the larger portion of your game plan, how game flow is going, and in that game flow, it was pretty obvious early on that Texas Tech was not just going to line up and beat Oregon's defense to score points. The only chance Tech was going to get points is if Oregon made a mistake and gave them a short field, or, so from that standpoint, that's where, I think we're saying the same thing here. Hey man, if you kick a field goal and it's 9-0, that's pretty much game over, because then it's a possession game. It really was, like, you could really say 9-0 means it's game over because Tech wasn't scoring twice. Or to your point, the other thing is hey, punt it, back them up, and then they're not going 90 yards. But hey, if you go for it and give them a short field, then maybe they can go down and kick a field goal. But again, it's just like, now you're going against Indiana, and Dan is going to have to answer the question of, do I want to maintain the aggression so the team understands that I believe in them, or am I okay playing field position and special teams, but that's, I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. I don't know the answer, but that's going to be a factor that decides this game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And like you said, that's why head coaches get paid the big bucks, because they got to make those calls, and you don't have a long time to think about it unless you call a timeout as they did on one of them. And even then, probably goes pretty quick in that huddle. But I want to talk more about the Oregon offense, because you made a point earlier that was absolutely correct, and something I felt was possible going into the game. Texas Tech's pass defense in the secondary, not actually that great. They're certainly not terrible. They're an elite defense. That was demonstrated throughout the entire game. Their secondary, I think, relied very heavily on the pass rush. And, they made a great play early in the game. I don't remember the guy's name, but the jump ball to Malik Benson, Dante Moore underthrows it just a little, or Oregon has a touchdown. And again, that game feels very, very different, but that's what these big games usually come down to, just a situational play here or there. But Oregon's receivers definitely had the edge, and the way they used the tight ends, who were big on the first drive, they had an advantage. I mean, that 4th and 2 to Kenyon Sadiq, what's the guy going to do? I mean, he's draped all over him, and Dante's just pinpoint, and Sadiq makes a contested catch. It was tough to stop, but the only thing that really stopped Oregon after the first quarter, when the Tech D-line had an advantage over Oregon, the only thing that stopped Oregon kind of was Oregon in that spot. Anytime they would go backwards, because Dante Moore was slicing and dicing. Yeah, he threw the interception later in the game, but it felt like they could have had 20 points at the half the way they moved down the field. They were dominating the field position battle. They won on special teams in a big way in this game. My number one concern is definitely the inability to run the ball for a second straight game against a legit defense. Washington, they struggled, and then Texas Tech, they struggled a lot. The first game against Indiana, Oregon actually ran the ball very well. Mm-hmm. And I think they've got to be able to, again, get back to that, because though Dante Moore showed he's capable of dropping back 35 to 40 times and throwing the ball to all different sorts of players. I don't even know how many different players caught a pass. Felt like it was a lot.
I think it was 11. I think it was 11.
Yeah. I think I'll double check real quick. But I feel good about Dante Moore throwing the ball as many times as needed. It is not where this Oregon offense is at their best.
Yeah. The thing is, and this is what, as I was watching it a couple times, I would just like look at the line of scrimmage, when they'd run the ball. And I just want to see like who's knocking who back. And actually, when Oregon would run like downhill, they were winning the line of scrimmage. Like when they were attacking and playing as one unit, they were actually generating a lot of movement. They were getting 2 or 3 yards of push. It's just sometimes when you run lateral, because of the speed of Tech's defensive line, they were able to run it down, or just, they weren't able to turn those 4 or 5 yard carries into a 20, 30, 40 yard burst. And all of a sudden the numbers look completely different. But there was push. There was a lot of reasons to be excited about it. Again, that's just the theme of the day. There were some missed opportunities, even on their 4th and short. If they, basically the theme is, if they hit on 2 or 3 of these opportunities that we've discussed here, it's a different game. We're saying Oregon played outstanding in every phase. There was a 4th and short. I don't know if maybe it was in the 3rd quarter, where Dante Moore got into a heavy play action. They sent Sadiq on a post. And I think they had Jamar. He had him for a touchdown, and that's his only read.
That was the most frustrating play of the entire game.
And you're setting that up like that. That's the thing that gets me is you were setting that up with some of these 4 or 5 yard runs. You were pot committed to run the ball. That was being set up all day. And as soon as Dante gets to the top of his drop, Sadiq is running full speed and clearing that safety. That is an easy touchdown. Just a missed opportunity. So again, it's like these are missed opportunity there. Poncho with the snaps, maybe some of the play calling on 4th down or 3rd down, whatever it is. You fix even half those, and this is an even more dominant performance. And all of a sudden, you're feeling even better about this game against Indiana.
There were a couple times, and we saw this against Indiana as well, where it felt like the 3rd down play call was almost to set up going forward on 4th down.
Yeah.
And unless you are really controlling the game, running the ball, I'm not a fan of that. Like the 4th and 2 where Dante threw a pick. They go on 3rd and 4, try to catch Tech napping, and David Bailey blows up Jamari Johnson and tackles Noah Whittington for a 2-yard gain. So you're going for it with that play call on 4th down, but you've been averaging less than 3 yards a carry at that point in the game. Heck, with the way Oregon ran the ball at the end of the game, at that point when they went for it, it might have been less than 2 yards a carry. So you're basically trying to get to a 4th down and 2.
Are those sack-adjusted numbers?
The rushing yards?
What were the numbers removing sacks? Or was it even worse with sacks?
If you took out the sacks, it would have been 37 carries for 76 yards.
Oh, wow. So you're talking, 2 yards a carry pretty much.
That's taking out Dante Moore's stats entirely. Some of those were true rushing attempts, but only a couple. So, it's kind of, I wish we wouldn't include sack yardage into rushing stats because it's not. Anyway, so
see, but they were getting put there was opportunities. I don't see that game as Texas Tech knocking Oregon's O-line off the ball. I don't see that. I did not see Oregon's O-line getting dominated.
I saw that in spurts.
But that's a good defense, though.
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
There were also plays like I don't remember which quarter it was in, but Oregon ran in RPO, which were just not working. Oregon's perimeter blocking was awful. It was awful all game. And that was a big reason why the RPOs didn't work. Stein kept going back to them. I didn't care for that. But there was one in particular where it's a bunch to the bottom and it's just a quick little RPO bubble screen. And Dante Moore's just counting the numbers and he sees 3-on-2 and it's an automatic trigger to go and throw it wide. But then the block gets blown up and it goes backwards. But if you actually look, and if he'd given the ball to Jordan Davison, he probably picks up 15 yards. Maybe he gets to the second level, breaks a big, it was wide open. But that's the only downside, I think, to the RPO heavy offense that Will Stein runs is sometimes it is best to just hand the ball off with the way it's blocked, but you can take that away because you give the quarterback that option. And we've seen it with Bo. We've seen it with Dante Moore as well.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch all the games real quick? Because this is a key point. Did you watch Ohio State? Perimeter blocking has been maybe the most underrated storyline. Miami's wide receivers were coming in and popping Ohio State's defense. They were digging out Caleb Downs, and they did it against A&M as well. Ohio State's receivers are typically good blockers. Not at all. Obviously, the pick six was because Jeremiah Smith missed a block.
He whiffed.
Yeah,
he's the best receiver in college football. He whiffed. Now Julian's saying, stares it down. But, it's a screen pass.
It's a freaking tomato out there. But
but, it's happening in the blink of an eye. And, by the way, if Jeremiah Smith makes that block, I think it was Brandon Innes they were trying to get the ball to. I think he walks in for a touchdown.
Yep.
It was.
Indiana, though, Bama's receivers, not blocking.
Didn't block. The old adage that, I'm sure a number of programs have had it, but I remember it percolating when Chip Kelly was the head coach at Oregon. No block, no rock. Period. Chip Kelly's receivers were historically great block. Keenan Lowe, Jeff Mail, Josh Hupp, those dudes blocked all the time, and I loved that. We are going to finish up on this Texas Tech game. Another glance at Indiana. More to come with Jake Butt right here on Locked On Ducks. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, well, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time is giving the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences writ large in just a few taps. So, If you want to go to the Peach Bowl against Indiana, then Game Time is the place to go. I've used Game Time to go to Oregon football, to go to Oregon basketball, to go to comedy shows, and the experience has been great every time. I save money compared to other ticketing services. It's a great process. They've got all-in pricing, so you don't get late fees and taxes right at checkout, which is the worst. Game Time's the way you want to go. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. So, Jake, I do want to just vent to someone who I feel like will fully understand me for a moment on that play you brought up, the 4th and 2, where Sadiq is running wide open. The thing that was frustrating about that, and why it gives me pause going into the Indiana game, where Dante Moore, again, didn't see the field well. He missed Gary Bryan. He missed Decorian Moore. He missed Kenyon Sadiq. He missed a bunch of stuff because Indiana was just disguising coverages and shifting things around. And that one play, maybe I'm reading too much into it, was concerning because I thought to myself, wait a minute, it was 4th and 2. Even if Sadiq is not open, which he was. He was
at minimum, he's going to be one-on-one because of the pre-snap look. At minimum, you got him one-on-one.
Exactly. And it's a two-man route. The first route is just a check down into the flat in case they sell out on the play action. But it's really designed for him. He is open. But even if he's double covered, throw the ball up. It's 4th down. Yeah. Those are the sorts of things that against Indiana, you cannot do them. Give Kenyon Sadiq an opportunity. You just deprived him. And by the way, even if you throw a pick down the field, then it's a punt. That's better than getting tackled short of the line of scrimmage. So that play that was designed to go to him, that was there to not cut it loose, I don't know what was going through Dante Moore's head in that moment, but it just called me right back to the Indiana game where we looked at the replay of a given sequence and went, what's he waiting for? What's he looking at? So I don't even know what to make of that play.
Listen, this is a theme that has been a theme for opponents of Indiana all year. And it's been a theme of Dante Moore. I still felt like, and some people looked at me crazy. I was like, man, I think Dante Moore is the best quarterback in college football. I said that pregame, and some people are like, Mendoza won the Heisman though. I just still think Dante is just, I don't know. It's close. But the only time he looked human was against Indiana in the first matchup, and at times in this game, clearly. The reason why is, and this has not just been a Dante Moore thing. We saw it Julian Sayin in the Big Ten championship, and we saw it in Ty Simpson. I mean, those are 3 of the best quarterbacks in college football. They don't know what they're looking at. Indiana runs maybe the best simulated pressure defense that I can ever remember seeing. Like, I don't think they get nearly enough credit where you don't know who's coming.
I think they do now. I think people have seen it now.
I think they deserve even more. Like when you're talking about, a Brian Flores with the Vikings or some of those like Viking defense in the NFL where people are like, this is historically great. Like I think Indiana deserves even further credit because Ty Simpson, what ends up happening is Ty Simpson, sure, you sack him and you hit him. But then there's times when you have a clean pocket and you'll see clips of Ty Simpson like turning around and there's no one, he's just, and because he hasn't seen it throughout the game, it's like psychological torture where guys will be open, but opposing quarterbacks are just so concerned because they don't know what they're looking at. You end up getting like 70% of the output that you're used to because of the psychological aspect. I am very curious of the second time around in this matchup, that should in theory benefit Oregon. Because you played against it, it caught you off guard. I'm sure after that game earlier in the season, they did a Sunday walkthrough, corrected the mistakes. You can now go back and watch that film earlier in the year. It's the second time around seeing it. It shouldn't catch Oregon off guard. But again, like no one's cracked the code of these simulated pressures. And I'll make one more point here, Spence. Like I saw a tweet of Indiana landed at 3:30 a.m. Thursday night. So they play the Rose Bowl. They land at 3:30 a.m. Thursday night. Signetti gave the players and the staff all Friday off, but he said he worked like a 10 to 12-hour day. He had to do all of his Oregon prep that day because he knew he was hosting transfer portal guys on Saturday. Indiana's coordinators haven't accepted jobs. Like Indiana's entire staff in roster is fully aligned and committed. There's no one trying to do two things right now. Indiana's committed to winning a national title. Tosh and Will, the transfer portal opened 2 days ago. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works because you need all hands on deck, even more so than ever because Indiana's defense is so confusing. But how do you do that while also trying to fill out your roster and staff at your next location? I hate the schedule, but I just don't know how they do this.
No, it's awful. What I go back to, I'm sure there will be some Oregon fans that gripe about that. Understandably so if Oregon loses on Friday night. Dan Lanning was announced. I think the portal had a different window, but Dan Lanning was announced as Oregon's head coach in December. He coached Georgia through the national championship run, and they went on to win it all. Now, that was in the 14 playoff, not the 12 team, so it definitely is different. But at least they've got someone to lean on for, hey, how do I do this? How do I manage two different jobs at the same time? Here's the other thing. One reason that Oregon is in this spot and why the opportunity is so big, I think roster-wise, if Dante Moore comes back, they could actually be better in 2026 than they are now, which is crazy, but it's possible. It's not a guarantee, but if they can get a couple more guys to come back and forego the NFL draft for one more season, that could definitely be the case. But they're going to have two new coordinators next year, and Tosh and Will are in year 3 and year 4 respectively on this staff. Kurt Cignetti's DC, Bryant Haynes, who, if he doesn't win the Broyles Award, shut down the award. Cancel it.
Period.
Cancel it. He has got 2 early round NFL guys on that defense, and they are the best in college football.
Yeah.
They just took Alabama to the woodshed.
Who are the early round guys, though, in your eyes?
Aiden Fisher, the linebacker, and D'Angelo Pons. And I don't think Fisher actually grades that highly as an NFL draft prospect.
I think fourth round for both those guys because Pons is short, maybe third.
Is Pons that short?
Pons was 5'9" as an outside corner. Pons
Goodness.
is 5'9".
Okay, yeah, give it to Bryant Haynes, or we're canceling the award. Here's the thing, though. He has been with Kurt Cignetti. This is now year 9 that they have been together. Now, he hasn't been the DC the entire time, but going back to Kurt Cignetti's time at Elon for 2 years, he was on staff. So what you're talking about with this defense and how you try and go about attacking it, it's incredibly difficult. But why do they look so well coached? Because these two guys have been doing this for a decade together. Like, Kurt Cignetti knows exactly what he wants him to do. That sort of coordinator continuity is really hard. And that the portal opens right now, it's only really affecting 4 programs, but for those 4 programs, it's a pretty big impact. I mean, Cignetti said in the press conference that he did virtually with Lanning. Yeah, we had Lanning is legitimately hilarious. Mm-hmm. And Cignetti said, I had to take a little bit of time away because we were having 13 players on, and Lanning said, yeah, you should pay attention to them. We want you to have a good team for next year.
Yeah, exactly.
like that sort of stuff. He got asked.
Broke Cignetti this year. Lanning got him to laugh.
Yeah, I know. The grouchy face with the raised eyebrow.
It's perfect, man.
It's unbelievable that guy. He is unlike anything we have really seen since Nick Saban. And by the way, he's a Saban disciple, so maybe we shouldn't.
All 4 coaches.
Yeah, Pete Golding was the Alabama DC for a while. Mario Cristobal was, of course. There was an Alabama staff that I think won a national championship or made the national championship game that had Mario Cristobal, Dan Lanning, Tosh Lupoy was on it, and I think it also had Kirby Smart. I'm sure plenty of people know the staff that I'm talking about.
Lane Kiffin, maybe? Was he there at that point?
I'd have to double check. It was an insane collection of coaching talent. But
yeah,
I'll wrap with this, and I've gotten this question a lot from Oregon fans out there, and I'll throw it to you. What's your confidence level that Oregon can beat Indiana?
Oh, I'm confident. There's no doubt in my mind that Oregon can beat Indiana.
Can,
right? But are you asking me will?
I'm asking can.
There's no doubt in my mind that they can. There's no doubt in my mind that they can. I think everything we talked about, though, is the key. Like, Dante's and the O-line's mental preparation and unity is, I think, the biggest factor in this game. That simulated pressure has just destroyed even the best quarterbacks and the best offenses. And that leads to multiple third and fourth down stops for Indiana's defense. It prevents points from being scored in the red zone. It leads to turnovers. This is a game where you need to play 60 minutes of your cleanest football, your best play calls and schemes. No team has done that against Indiana yet this season. Oregon's been the closest, maybe Ohio State, maybe Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, those are the teams that have been the closest. But gosh, man, this should be the national championship, in my opinion, though. This should be the national title game.
I hesitate to say what I was about to say because I'm not going to say it out loud for Oregon until they do it. But if Indiana wins this game, there's a 0% chance I will not pick them to win the national championship game against either Miami or Ole Miss, who are both great, but Indiana is such a complete team. By the way, Alabama with Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, who Oregon fans know historically have been so good on third and fourth downs in their career. It's been their calling card, really, to win a bunch of close games against Indiana. What do you think they were combined on third and fourth down?
What they have, like 3 conversions?
They did have 3 conversions. That is correct.
13 or
oh!
Is that what it was? Yeah, was that 3-13?
3 of 13. 0 of 2 on fourth, 3 of 11 on third. Here's another crazy stat. I know we're running a tad long here, but my boss will forgive me because you're the man. Austin Mack led Alabama in passing yards, their backup quarterback. Their leading rusher was Ty Simpson, their starting quarterback. That is the greatest obliteration of Alabama
in our lives. They haven't been able to run the ball all year. Alabama hasn't been able to run the ball all year. No, but
that's still a hilarious thing to see. Yeah. Your backup leads you in passing. Your starter leads you in rushing. Yikes.
Yeah. You think Dante comes back?
If Oregon doesn't win the national championship, I am at a 6 out of 10 confidence level he comes back.
Does it factor in that Will's gone? Does that factor?
Has to at least a little. But they promoted from within, so it's not as if he's going to be working with a coach he doesn't know.
Yeah.
So
he's a great kid, man. Dante's
such a good
awesome
dude.
Person.
Great head on his shoulders. Let's hope he plays the game of his life on Friday night. Jake Butt, Big Ten Network. Appreciate the time, my man. Appreciate everyone listening. We'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.